Welcome to Jessie at Home. In this video I'm going to show you how to make this large vintage heart. It's still small, you can see it's pretty small, it's less than 3 inches. The reason it's called large is because I also have a pattern for this one, which is a little smaller. So of the two, this one that we're making now is the large heart, even though it's small. And of course, if you wanted it to be large, you could use a larger yarn with a larger needle and that would make a larger heart. Now that we've said large a million times, let me tell you what we're using here. I have this yarn is Aunt Lydia's Baker's cotton. The hook that I'm using is a US size 4, or the letter is E, and that is a 3.5 millimeter. Okay, so we have a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook in the Aunt Lydia's Baker's cotton. We're going to start off with a slip knot. Now, once you have your slip knot on your needle, on your hook, sorry, you need to chain 8. Let me loosen that up, I tightened it a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we have 8 chains here. And we are now going to work into the second chain from the hook. So, some people like to work into the top loops. I like to work into these little ridges on the back, these bottom loops, or bottom ridges. Okay, and that means I'm going to skip the first one, and I'm going to work my first single crochet into this second loop. The second little bottom ridge. There is my single crochet into the second one. That was one of them, and then here's the next one, which means we've made 2, one more, that's 3, and another makes 4, another makes 5, another makes 6, and our very last chain is right here working into it, and that makes a total of 7 single crochet worked across this. So we chained 8, we made a single crochet into the second chain from the hook and all of the rest of them, meaning we have 7 single crochets. Now we're going to, the next 6 rows are all going to be worked exactly the same. Let me show you. Rows 2 through 7 are exactly the same. So for row 2, you do not start off with the chain. You're just going to place your single crochet into the very first stitch. So just go right into that first stitch and make a single crochet. That's 1. You're going to keep going all the way across. You'll have 7 again. 2, 3, 4. Get this out of the way so you can kind of see things clearer. 5, 6, and there should be 2 loops here. Sometimes I have a hard time finding the second loop on the last stitch. 7. Now you're just going to continue. That was row 2. Row 3 is worked the same, where you just start off right away with that single crochet and you single crochet across, so you'll have 7 total. And you're going to do that until you've worked a total of 7 rows. So you will have a square that is 7 single crochet across by 7 single crochet tall. Okay, I have finished my little square. It is 7 single crochet across and it is 7 single crochet tall. So 7 stitches by 7 rows and you have this little square. Okay, and now we're not going to turn. Instead, what we're going to do is rotate so that you're going to now be working along the side of all of these stitches. Okay, so to begin your next row, to begin row 8, which is the 2 little bumps of the heart, you're going to start off with a chain 1. And now, like I said, you have 7 rows. We're going to work into the middle of this, which means we're going to work into the side of the 4th row. So if you find your 4th row and you find the side, it's basically going to be right in the middle of your piece. That's what we're going to work into. We're going to start off by putting a treble in there. A treble crochet right there into the side of the 4th row, and then chain 1 and then another treble. And we're going to keep doing that. Chain 1 treble until there are 5 trebles. That was 2, chain 1, treble again. That's 3, chain 1, treble again. I seem to have tangled my yarn a bit. I tried to pull it loose, but you know, sometimes things happen. That is 4, chain 1 again, and treble again. Cut my tail. And there are now 5 trebles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to chain 1 more time, and then I'm going to work a slip stitch into the corner, which is basically the first chain that I made. So we're going to slip stitch into that corner. I like to kind of leave the tail end over here so that I'm kind of crossing over top of it. Slip stitch right into that corner. And now we're going to repeat the bump for the second bump. Only this time we have tops of stitches instead of sides of stitches, but we're still working into the middle or the 4th one. So we start off with the chain 1 and then we treble to the 4th stitch, and we're going to keep on placing trebles in there. We'll finish this one, chain 1 and treble again. Makes 2, chain 1, treble again, 3, chain 1, treble again, 4, chain 1, treble again. We have 5 trebles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to chain 1, and again we're going to slip stitch into the next corner. And that is the end of row 8. And now you can see that we have a heart, but it's not quite as obvious as I would like, and it doesn't really have a nice edge to it that's going to make it keep its shape. So you can see we still need a little bit of the edge on it. So we're going to make a border, and that also helps separate out these pretty spokes that I like so much. So to make that border, we're going to start off with the chain 1. And now there were 7 rows across here, so we need to get a single crochet into each one. We're going to start off by placing 6 single crochet across the side because our 7th one is going to be worked in the point. Do you see how we have sides here and then we have loops here? This first little loop is going to be our point. So we need to get 6 single crochets across here before we hit the point, okay? So 1, 2, maybe I'm watching the camera instead of my hands. 3, 4, 5, 6. One day I will master watching the camera and working at the same time. I see my hands at a different angle that way and I get all confused. Okay. Here is that first loop I was telling you about, and that is going to be the point at the bottom of our heart. We are going to place a single crochet, a chain 2, and then a single crochet into this stitch for our point. So we do a single crochet, we chain 2, and then we put another single crochet in there. And that is the point at the bottom of our heart. And now we're going to put single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that brings us to all of these chain 1s and trebles, and we're going to be ignoring the trebles and working into the chain 1. So into this first chain 1 space we're doing 2 single crochets. 1, 2. Now in each of the next 4 chain 1 spaces we are going to place 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And that brings us to the last chain 1 space before the little point. What we're going to do now is put a single crochet into this one, and then we're going to skip over that point. We're going to put a single crochet into this chain 1 space. So each of the next 2 chain 1 spaces each get just 1 single crochet. 1 single crochet, go over to this side, 1 single crochet. And now again, each of the next 4 spaces get 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and this is all written down for you, so you know, you don't have to worry about trying to write it down yourself or stress out about trying to remember what I just said. 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and this leaves us with 1 chain 1 space left, and in that last chain 1 space we're going to place 2 single crochet. And now you can slip stitch to the top of the first single crochet to join, and then clip your yarn and fasten off. I actually like to do a little seamless join. So I clip my yarn, leaving myself a decent sized tail, okay? And then I pinch my stitch so that I don't, you don't want to pinch the yarn here, but you want to pinch the stitch under the yarn so that I don't accidentally tighten everything up, and I'm going to pull my yarn through like that. So now there's only 1 piece coming out from those stitches. Going to put it onto my yarn needle. Okay, so now you can see we have this pretty loop that our yarn is coming out of, and then we have this little loop that we want to be joined to, but we need to make a loop to join them. So we're going to make a little copycat stitch, a little loop to join them. And to do that, you simply want to see that this is where you want your loop to go, right under here. This is where you want it to wrap. So all you do is run your needle right through underneath that stitch where you want your loop to wrap. And then you just come back down through this stitch. You'll actually be going through 2 loops when you go through that stitch. 1, 2, okay. And then you can just kind of pull it till it's the right size. You can see you have a nice continuous chain across the side of your heart instead of that little bump you get when you do the slip stitch to join. Okay, and it's also nice that way if you then wanted to add more stitches around or something, you could certainly do that a lot easier because there wouldn't be a funky little bump there. It's just a continuous stitch, continuous little chain top. So now we're just going to weave in our ends, you know, and I kind of go in one direction for a bit, pull it through, and then go in another direction for a little bit, pull it through, and then back in another direction for a little bit, pull it through, and right up the next. Now here's a nice little trick. If you want, here's the top of your heart, right? And it's got that little divot. If you want that little divot at the top of your heart to divot even more, well, your starting tail is right at that point. So you can kind of run your yarn up a little bit and then back down without going through all the same stitches, or else you'll just be pulling your yarn back out again. And kind of give it a little tug to tighten up that little divot if you want a little bit more definition in the top of your heart there, okay? It's just a nifty little thing that happens since our starting end of our yarn happens to be right at that little point. Makes that really easy to do. Some people like to make that divot really pronounced in between the 2 little bumps, and some people like it to be a little bit more of a smooth transition. You do what makes you happy, right? Okay, now that we've woven in all of our ends quite well, we can clip them, and ta-da! You have a pretty little heart here that you can use for a variety of things. And we also, like I showed you before, there's a smaller version. You can stick them together to make something, you know, whatever floats your boat. You can make one bigger, you can make them bigger than this, like I said before, by using a larger yarn or a larger hook, or larger yarn and a larger hook, whatever works for you. But there you have the larger of the two vintage hearts. Thank you for watching.